Greetings, YouTube. I don't know how many folks watching this video are familiar with quantum mechanics, but when I was being exposed to it, one of the first things I learned was the wave-particle duality of light. That light can be looked at as either a particle or a wave, but you couldn't look at light as both of them at the same time. Now, they were both equally valid views of light, whether you're looking at it as wave or looking at it as a particle. You just got different information out of the light depending on how you looked at it. And that fascinated me. Truly and unbelievably just marveled at me. I was just like, wow. And the more I learned and the better understanding I had for it, the more it fascinated me. And it was just so bloody cool. And I was listening to a physicist discuss his view of spirituality and religion recently. On Being, I think is the show. It's called On Being. I think it's on NPR on Sunday mornings. I listen to it occasionally on the way to flea markets and such. And he was discussing, and essentially that his worldview is very similar to that wave-particle duality. And that you can look at the world in different ways to get different information, but there isn't a lot of overlap between those ways of looking at the world. And that got me thinking, and I'm like, well, that's a wonderful way to look at it. And it's why I find no conflict between logos and mythos. Because I can look at the same thing either from the point of view of logos or the point of view of mythos. I get different pieces of information, but they're both equally valid. And that's why I find zero conflict between mythos and logos, and why I am always baffled when so many people out there do seem to find conflict. That no, you must only think of logos from the atheist perspective. Or no, you must only think of mythos from the theistic perspective. And they seem to ignore the fact that the other is just as valid. It's just that you can't do it at the same time. One of my favorite examples of this is the moon. Now, for me, the moon is both a physical object falling into the logos camp, and it is a spiritual object falling into the mythos camp. The moon is a physical manifestation in my mind of my goddess. The waxing and waning of the moon, the blackness of the new moon to the brightness of the full moon, the life and death cycle, menstruation, birth, the whole 9 yards. But the moon is also a physical object that people have stood on, that we've gotten samples from. There are moon rocks in the world today because we've brought them back with us. And if I were to go to the moon, which would be really awesome, if I were to go to the moon and stand on the moon, I would not think of myself as standing on the face of my goddess. I would think of myself as standing on regolith. And that would be awesome. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but, it would be cool. And it doesn't detract from the fact that I can still view the moon as a spiritual object. Because I see no conflict between mythos and logos. And I am endlessly confused by people that do. It is why I think theists that ignore logos are wrong, and why I think atheists that ignore mythos are wrong. They're out of balance. And they're never going to be in balance. They are never going to have a full appreciation of the world until they understand that there is no conflict between these two concepts. And that you can have both of them in your mind at once and be perfectly happy and sane. I wish more people understood that. And not a lot seem to. So maybe this can be an introduction to the concept at least. Maybe you can entertain it a little bit. Think about it, ponder it. And maybe someday you'll come to understand the same things I have. That there is no conflict. And that both concepts are equally valid, just not at the same time.